Hello and welcome to episode 1244 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, January 12th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm tired, but I'm doing all right. I'm not going anywhere this weekend as we originally planned. We just decided to avoid the potential chaos. With we were going to be flying on Alaska. Are you familiar with what happened on their airline recently, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, a door flew off. Now, apparently it wasn't being used as a door, so it's called a door plug or something. Whatever. A piece of the goddamn plane flew off while it was flying. And I don't really care what you want to call it. It's terrifying. Thankfully, everything was pretty okay. Some people's shit got sucked out. Some kid's shirt got yoinked off. Could you imagine the pressure just ripping your shirt off? That's insane.
I am petrified to fly.
I'm not a great flyer.
It was one of the things that popped up out of nowhere when I got sober. I was in the Army. I've jumped out of planes. I've my mom worked for the airlines growing up, so I got free air travel and stuff. So I've flown hundreds, probably close to thousands of times in my life. And then when I got sober, all of a sudden, I became scared of flying.
Crap.
Now I have something to live for, and I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly.
But I still do it, but this does not help.
No,
so,
you know what also doesn't help? When you watch the movie Flight, 2 days before that happens, and I did this, and I don't really know why. I knew the trip was coming up and everything, and I knew that movie would be in my head. I did not know that 2 days later, the airline that I was flying was going to have a door blow off their airplane. So, we're dealing with that, and Alaska's shutting down different planes and whatnot. Then we have a pending ice storm freeze over situation here in Austin that's supposed to happen late Sunday. Before we after we get back, we were going to have it timed kind of perfectly where we were going to get back, then the weather was going to kind of turn. So then we're thinking a delay from the airline could then be compounded by a delay from the weather, right? Say the airline delays us 5-6 hours, then the weather turns here in Austin, then we can't get here because not because of an airplane situation, but because of weather. So we just saw it as potential chaos. So we're just punting our trip. It wasn't specific to this weekend for anything. We were just going to go and have a little San Diego weekend this weekend. We're just going to move it. So the pressure's off. I was stressing my face off about it.
Danielle and I are actually talking about taking separate flights to New York, just in case one of them were to go down or something like that. But if that flight,
the president,
yeah, some parents, that's why Travis Barker's wife was not on the flight that he was on, right? Because they take separate flights in case something happens.
That's scary,
right? And so we're talking about that. But if something were to happen to the plane you were supposed to be on, we're now in a Final Destination movie. So we've gone from flight to Final Destination.
Exactly.
And there will be some sort of log on the road that's coming for you.
Exactly. So again, we just bypassed all of it. We were worried because of some non-refundable stuff. Jen called, got it handled. She was on hold for a long time. Mentioned everything, about what was going on with Alaska. So the hotel took care of us. So it ended up being an easy Band-Aid ripoff at the end.
And we can Jen to handle my
she was on it, dude.
I thought Jason was the guy, but
we thought he was a travel wizard. We might have a new travel wizard. Yeah, she got it all handled. So that was great. So I'll be home for the weekend, and I won't have to potentially watch the Lions game in an airport. That was another thing I really wasn't looking forward to, was possibly being stuck in an airport watching the Lions game. But anyway, we got plenty of baseball to talk about. We got some moves. We got somebody freed. There's a free man that you now have on your board there. We'll get to him in a moment. He's got a new teammate as well. Well, he's got a million new teammates, but the Cubs have multiple players. And then we will finally finish the first base preview. We've taken a while on it, 3 parts, but we'll get to the end of it. But let's start with the Cubs. I hinted at the trade they did. We'll do that. We'll do that in a second. But they signed Shota Imanaga to a 4-year deal that can get up to a 5-year deal. It's 453 with a chance to go 580. Imanaga, if you don't know, is a left-hander coming over from Japan. He's been a pretty solid veteran over there. A little bit of a home run issue at times that could be exacerbated a little bit more here, but a big-time strikeout guy. I mean, he looks pretty good. Now, one thing is, we have a tendency as kind of a baseball community to dream on somebody like Imanaga coming over, like, oh my God, he could be anything. And then comparing him to some of the veterans that also got like 13, 14 mil. For example, like Sean Manaea. Everyone's acting like, Imanaga's such a better signing than Sean Manaea because we have an idea of what Sean Manaea is, right? But he got like 14 mil. But like, it's not that hard to envision Manaea staying healthy and putting up another 2021 type season, right? Like that's in the cards for him. So I think Imanaga is going to be in the tier of player that he was signed as, right? So like I said, 13, 14 mil a year. That's something that Manaea is getting. I think he's going to be a middle-class type of pitcher, which is fine. I don't say that, negatively, but I think people want to dream and kind of have this big, bright idea of what Shota Imanaga can be. What do you think he's going to be?
It's really hard to know. And I mean, I was writing up the market report last night, and Imanaga wasn't on it, but Yamamoto was, right? Because Yamamoto signed with the Dodgers. I'm sure Imanaga will be on the next one.
Yeah, because it comes kind of in a wave.
Yeah.
So Yamamoto being on this one means it might be another 1 or 2 before the Imanaga stuff shows up.
So, but Saris, friend of the show.
I'm sorry. Was that FSWA Hall of Famer?
Hall
Saris?
of Famer. Huge congrats to our friend, on making that.
So I'm on the panel. And so the first thing I said, if we put Eno on, I walk. Like I threatened to walk. Apparently I don't carry that much weight though, because they voted him in. But I flipped the table. I was like, I hate this guy. I cannot believe we're voting him in. I told them all about his racism and his no, I'm just kidding. No, it was great. I didn't even have to nominate Eno and look like a little homer, voting one of my best friends. Somebody else nominated him. Of course, I was easy vote for him from me, and he's very well deserving. So I'm very excited for Eno there. But anyway, what did Eno say about Shota Imanaga?
So he talked about in his article on him that he had the most ride on his fastball of any pitcher pitching in the WBC.
That's pretty nice.
Which is pretty nice. One of the problems, though, is he's also struggled with home runs in Japan.
That's my concern.
That makes you think he may struggle with home runs in the U.S., considering it's easier to hit the ball out in the U.S. than it is in Japan in most parks. So, and then you've got a guy who's had inconsistent velocity throughout his career. He's kind of a smaller build, being only like 5'10", 170, I think. I don't know. And then you've got the workload concerns, right? We've already seen the Dodgers move to either a 6-man or 6-day rotation.
You want to clarify that a little bit?
So with Yamamoto coming up, they're in Japan.
And Glass now too, by the way. They have 2 considerations for it.
Well, I think even more than that. I think they have Bobby Miller too, and
just multiple, many considerations for it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
In Japan, they don't pitch on a 5-day rotation. They pitch on a once-a-week rotation, which is 6 days there because they all have 1 day off each week. So in order to mimic that for Yamamoto, and because they have a number of guys with either injury or innings concerns, they're going to move to that kind of rotation where they're going to, every 6th day is going to be a different starter, which means they're going to be guys who don't pitch in a given week when they have a 5-game week. And very few guys are going to get 2 starts a week, right? You're going to have 7 games in that week in order for that to happen. And only one guy will be eligible for that. So Will Chicago do something like that? But I think you have to put an innings cap of probably around 150 on Mangas for 2024. And to me, I think the combination of the unknowns, because we just have never seen him pitch against Major League pitching, or at least outside of the WBC against Major League pitching, or Major League hitting, and kind of those concerns I've already mentioned, I'm probably not going to get him. Now, I did draft him.
We're talking Imanaga here still.
Yeah, I did draft him in my first Gladiator.
Okay. Where'd you get him there?
Accidentally.
Just think it was Yamamoto. You're like, he's available late.
I thought it was Yamamoto. And I was like, whoa, pick 200.
This is fantastic.
I can look up exactly where I got him, but yeah, so I accidentally I had no idea who he was at that point.
Well, at least you got one share just in case he's that awesome.
Yeah, so I've got my one share. It's in a $50 Gladiator, which I'm not like overly concerned. Like, oh, if that one doesn't hit, I'm not like losing my mind. But yeah, I just can't imagine I'm going to end up drafting him again unless he just falls in a draft, which I would assume at this point because he's now signed.
That's less
it's
likely.
Probably, yeah, it's just not going to happen. So, and of course,
what date range are you doing for ADP, by the way?
That is a good question. I had not set that. I was kind of waiting to see what you were going to do.
I did 1220.
1220 seems about right.
That's 11 drafts.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay. So yeah, with Imanaga, while you look up where you drafted him, it seems like a pretty fair deal. I expect him to be kind of a mid-rotation guy, like a 3-4 type, right? And that's a border there where 3, he's probably delivering 12-team fantasy value with 10-team usefulness, maybe as like a team streamer or straight up streamer. Obviously, if he's a 4 and he's a bit more fringe in 10s and 12s, maybe a standard streamer in both those formats, and then somebody that we want more consistently in a 15. I'd be surprised if he went crazy. 242. Okay, let me see where he's. Compare that to his ADP. Oh yeah, you got a bargain there. 217 ADP over these last 11 drafts, and 242 would have been the max. So you got in when the getting was better. It's already moving up, and this has no impact of his signing yet. None of these drafts will have included him being signed for Imanaga.
I do want to say that I tend to be the guy that stays away from these guys just in general. So if you haven't been afraid of Japanese or Korean imports in the past, then you may want to take the gamble. And I don't have a problem with that. For me, like, I don't like the unknowns. Especially for like Yamamoto, I'm just not going to get Yamamoto probably anywhere.
He's just
outside of a dynasty league. He's just too expensive.
So
and I think he's going to be a second round pick by the time we get to draft day. So, because he's all his
46 ADP right now.
Yeah, and his min is 26, or at least it was as of last night when I was
which so much.
Yes, or I guess the min for we're looking at is 30. But I mean, I assume he's going to get his ADP will be 30 by the time starting pitching continues to move up going into March. People are going to get the same pitch in the spring, and a guy in a 6-man rotation or a 6-day rotation that has never pitched regularly in Major League Baseball. That Yamamoto is slate framed as well. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm just kidding.
Necessarily, because I mean there are guys who make that work for long. I mean, look at Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray's a slate frame guy,
but he's had injury issues too.
He's had injury issues, and I worry about when slate frame guys have to put on innings or change their routine. So a guy, I think both Yamamoto and Manga have to not only kind of change the routine going from their the Japanese ball to American ball, but now they will try to put on more innings on top of that. So to me, I don't like the combination of those things. So I tend to be out. I was out on Senga last year, and that did not feel so good. The only place I got him was at the Arizona Fall League draft.
Yeah, but if you're out permanently, right? Like, and you accept that you're going to miss sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to miss, and that's okay.
You're out not because you think that none of them will ever come over and be good, but because you don't want to take the misses with the hits.
The one caveat to that is I'd be happy to draft Yamamoto on a Dynasty League team.
Yeah, because then you got the long term to kind of see where it goes. And we did draft Ha-Sung Kim, by the way. We were pretty hot on him when he came over.
Yeah.
But maybe you have a difference with pitchers.
Yeah, I got more of an issue with pitchers than hitters.
Totally fair.
But even the hitters, I mean, the Kim, did not pan out in that first
year.
year.
No, I was just saying that. We gassed him up. The first year, he was not good. Thankfully, we stuck with him. We've been touting him from day one. But there were some growing pains. We took it on the chin in that first year. He wasn't super expensive, but he gave you a 76 OPS plus with 8 homers and 6 steals.
Yeah, it was brutal.
And then pretty solid in 2022, and then the breakout last year. So it takes time, and this could happen with Imanaga, it could happen with Yamamoto. We've seen Senga hit the ground running. But I'm really excited for Yamamoto, of course, because of the hype he brings. But I'm excited for Imanaga. Solid signing for the Cubs. It basically, though, here's the thing. Just to kind of put a button on it. He basically just kind of replaces the guy that we're going to talk about in a second who signed with the Yankees, Marcus Stroman, right? Like, let that be a guideline for what you're hoping for. Stroman had a 3.95 ERA and a 1.26 WHIP. If Imanaga can do that, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So they also made a trade. Now, we're in the Pull Hitter Pod Discord, which we were also on the show yesterday. Thank you so much to Rob for having us on, a couple of meatballs like us, getting to talk with him. I love Rob, one of my favorite people in the industry. Great guy. Had us on. And someone in their Discord was like, should we be getting so happy that Michael Busch is freed now? Haven't we done this before? Didn't we do this with a Dodger going to the Cubs? They cited Edwin Rios. And I was like, yeah, that's actually like a pretty fair point. That said, I cannot contain my excitement. Yeah. I am more excited about Busch than I was Rios. Michael Busch is freed. He's going to the Cubs. What do you think about this move?
I mean, I love this move. My only concern is the second big issue with Michael Busch hasn't changed. And that is that he's a bad defender.
Yes.
There's a reason why he has not broken into the Dodgers lineup is because he is so bad defensively at every position that
can't be shifted anymore either.
Yeah, that there's no place to really play him. And I don't know that changes in Chicago. And we're talking about a Chicago team that is usually pretty decent defensively. So,
well, he's going to play first over that clown Matt Mervis because they hate Mervis.
I guess he could.
Patrick Wisdom. I mean, aren't he and Wisdom a perfect platoon?
Yeah, I think they could be.
It's actually kind of fitting, with the two big moves here that Zimborski put up Cubs Zips projections today. Go to the front page, and you can see it front and center. Imanaga tabbed for a 3.2 WAR, which is pretty damn nice. And then it says 2.0, but next to Busch, Wisdom, and Mervis combined. So I don't know what slice of that goes to Busch, but the reason we like him is that he can hit. And you're right that the Dodgers, they couldn't find a spot for him. And I think they even said basically the inability to shift him doesn't allow us the protection of a bad defender, which we've been able to do in the past. And credit to Max Muncy. He started as kind of a let's hide him somewhere and kind of move him around the diamond and rounded himself into a decent fielder. So this isn't a Max Muncy situation. Busch is just not that good. And now that he can't be shifted, they can't hide him. So they make the move here. We should address what that person in Rob DiPietro's podcast said about Edwin Rios, though, because there are some parallels. of like this big power guy who's got a ton of swing and miss. And if the Dodgers don't want him, why do we think that the Cubs are just going to land some gem that the Dodgers are discarding here? Might they be selling the Cubs a dream here with Michael Busch?
I mean, obviously, like, the Dodgers tend to do well on these kind of deals, so it wouldn't be surprising if it turned out that Michael Busch just sucks at baseball. I tend to not believe that, though.
I'm still holding out that hope.
And I mean, obviously, really, really small sample, but the underlying skills on that 81 plate appearance sample, pretty good. League average zone contact,
and way better than what Rios has. And that's why, and I even, there was a discussion going on about it. I was like, I think he's a little bit different than Rios. Like, it's a fair thing to bring up, but Rios had like crazy swing and miss, like a 16% swinging strike rate. It was very clear that he was going to be an all or nothing kind of guy. Rios was, and I think Busch has a better bat than that. He struck out 33% of the time in his 81 plate appearances as well, but it was with like a 12 or 13% swinging strike rate. He didn't strike out that much coming up. I just think he's a better pure hitter, Michael Busch is, than Edwin Rios. But
let's be honest about like the prospect pedigree too. Like, Edwin Rios was never considered like a top tier prospect. Like,
true.
You go and look at his scouting report on our page from 2020. And he's the team's 30th prospect, not 30th prospect in baseball. Whereas Michael Busch, 30th prospect in baseball, their team's second best prospect
and on 29th overall.
Yeah, this is a really, really good prospect that I think if he was even adequate defensively, would be probably a top 15 prospect in all of baseball. So and he's pretty much hit at every single stop. It does come with strikeouts, 26% strikeout rate.
Look at last year's AAA run.
Well, I think he's just too good for AAA.
Well, now, it was a 19% K with an 8% swinging strike rate. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, if he could be a quad A guy, maybe he is a quad A guy. But
might be.
I think he is. I think he's a guy who is going to hit at the major league level, and if they can just find him a DH spot regularly or hide him at first, let him, play him at first, I think he's going to be a pretty good bat. The question is, what will the price become?
Well, no,
I'm really hoping Cody Bellinger or someone signs today and kind of just people forget.
It would keep the price low. And we know the Cubs like to sign 512 first base types in a given offseason. Here's the thing. Michael Busch is pick 500 right now. He could go up a ton and I'd still pay.
You go up 200 picks and I'll still pay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I would still pay a 350.
Especially because he's third base eligible.
Exactly.
Which is not a great position. So he now becomes, your backup plan at third base every single time.
We're both in DCs right now. Mm-hmm. I think he's on our board for sure. So that's Michael Busch.
I know. I'm a little bummed. I made my pick.
What round are y'all in?
Well, I'm in two different ones.
Okay. What's the deepest one?
It
mine's in the second round. I got some time.
Ooh. What pick do you have in that one as I look up where I'm
6, and I got Mookie Betts at 6.
Oh, that's nice. I started in my most recent one, and we're in round 9. But the one that's been going for a little while is in round 19. So I kind of wish I had taken him with my last pick. Still available. All right, here we go.
Oh yeah, you can wait. 285, 19 times 15, real quick there. 285. I would wait another.
I'm going to set that min real quick.
You're going to set that min really, really spicy there so that you can write in your market report. Some savvy drafter drafted Michael Busch.
Yeah, I'll probably wait a little bit.
So that's Busch. We like him. You and I are still bought in. I think he's at least the strong side platoon first baseman. I'm not too worried about his 81 plate appearances at the majors. That's a small sample. I'm looking at the guy in the minors who has just consistently hit. The trade didn't really bring back anything of fantasy relevance. 2 prospects go to the Dodgers. Jackson Ferris and Zaire Hope. I don't know a thing about either of them. Do you?
No, except for our friend Shelly V had a really great tweet. So Jackson Ferris, he's a lefty. He's only 19. He did get a $3 million bonus when he signed in the second round with the Cubs. So, a prospect of note, his team's 16th prospect, not on top 100 as of yet because he's pretty far away. But it sets up a potential situation in which if the Dodgers can get him to the rotation in a few years and they still have Walker Buehler, we then have Ferris Bueller in the rotation. Shout out, Shelly.
That'd be fantastic. Shelly hitting the hard-hitting news there, and I appreciate it. Let's talk about Stroman going to the Yankees, because it is interesting. It's interesting how Cubs-centric all the news was yesterday with their two moves, and then their guy landing elsewhere with Marcus Stroman going to New York. Look, I think the first thing that we can cross off is, because we always make up this whole big thing about will they be able to handle New York, which I think is always overblown a bit. Excuse me. As if everyone who struggles with the Yankees only struggles because New York is a difficult place or whatever. I don't think that's going to be any problem for Stroh, right? He'll embrace that. He'll have no problem dealing with that. He's from New York. So we can put that off to the side. What about Stroman as a pitcher? Is he just going to continue to be himself, which is a solid, capable mid-rotation arm for about 140, 150 innings? Or do you see anything different here heading back to New York? He was a Met for a year. Now he gets to be a Yankee. What do you think of Stroh in New York? A year and a half, by the way, with the Mets. Go ahead.
I don't love this landing spot. I would have preferred to see him stay in Chicago, where that infield defense is really, really good. And he seemed really comfortable. But I mean, like you said, he's probably just going to be the guy he always is, which is, a mid to kind of high threes ERA pitcher that, gets you 7 strikeouts per 9, win a bunch of games in New York because we expect the Yankees to be pretty good, but could hurt your whip a little bit. The whip last year was 126. I do want to point out, because I have seen a lot of people give similar kind of analysis to what I'm giving, which is he's kind of a boring ho-hum innings eater that's not going to hurt you, but not going to help you really. He was fantastic before getting injured last year.
Yeah. He's an all-star.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
Stroman had a 290. Sorry to interrupt you. 296 ERA, 111 WHIP in his first 113 innings over the first row.
Yeah, and then he got hurt. So if you were like me and you dropped him when he got hurt and weren't able to pick him back up because someone else did,
you didn't get those last 24 innings.
You didn't get those last 24 innings where he got just torched. I kind of want to throw out those last 24 innings because he was clearly still ailing. But I don't think he's going to be a 294 or whatever ERA you said kind of pitcher. I think at best case scenario, he's a 3.4 guy. But he's more likely a 3.7, 120 whip.
That all works.
Which is all fine considering where he's going to. The price will go up. He'll be on my next market report, I'm sure. But I think Marcus Stroman's one of those guys that kind of gets discounted unfairly when he's, perfectly fine glue guy for the back of your rotation.
I think that totally makes sense. There's some upside with him, with Marcus Stroman, but and the downside isn't too bad, obviously, unless he gets hurt and something goes off the wires like it did last year down the stretch there. Let me see where his price is real quick here. He is 280, which seems totally fair. He's going to go up. Might go up a little bit more because it's the Yankees, a little Yankee tax action. Let's say he's going up. I'm going to give him 50 picks. I'll take him up to 230, and that puts Marcus Stroman around Christopher Sanchez, Reed Detmers, Emmett Sheehan, and let me find one more starter here. Lucas Giolito. What do you think of that group? With Stroman in it.
Up to 230.
Yeah, and then Giolito's at 220. So those are the pitchers in that 220 to 230 range if he goes up about 50, 60 picks.
I don't mind that. He's at that point, he's got probably less upside than the majority of those guys, but
Yeah.
I think a higher floor. Like I'm not, you're obviously, we've seen the floor from Giolito the last few years, right? So like I would rather have Marcus Stroman's floor, I think, than
By the way,
Giolito's.
Lucas Giolito. So I want to tread a little lightly here bringing this up. It's public news, so it's not anything crazy or whatever. But I randomly noticed this when I was looking at him up to write up his little blurb for my starting pitcher rankings. Not only was he traded clear across the country twice last year, he got a divorce in the second half.
Oh, I didn't know this. Oh.
Like, I cannot tell you how little I care about his non-White Sox numbers now. I was already discounting them a bit because of getting traded twice like that. Like, hey, that's pretty tough. He was also getting divorced at that time. It was in the second half of the season.
That's brutal.
I'm sorry, dude. Like, yeah, you're getting yo-yoed across the country and you're getting a divorce. Like, I'm gonna give him a pass there and kind of give him a washout and look at the White Sox numbers: 3.79 ERA, 1.22 WHIP, and still have some pretty decent confidence in Giolito. Not to sidetrack us from Stroman, but I just want to point that out.
Yeah, and I mean, he also had. I mean, obviously, this is public as well. He also had to live in Cleveland for a while, which is pretty gross.
Brutal, dude. It's brutal. I'm from Detroit. I can't say shit. But yeah, so anyway, that sucks. And if Stroman gets all the way up there, I think I would still prefer like Giolito. I'd prefer my boy Christopher Sanchez and Reed Detmers, two guys I really like.
For me, it's all about roster construction, right?
He might not go that high either, by the way. We might be overrating. He might go up like 25 picks or something. Then he's in there with Seth Lugo.
He might not even go up that much at all.
That's true.
To be quite honest, because usually the guys who go up a huge amount are guys with the Giolito type upside, right? Like you're going, ooh, new spot. He's in the news, and this guy has a lot of upside. Where Stroman doesn't have that. Like Stroman's really been an SP1 or 2 in fantasy. So I'm not super worried about like the price going through the roof or anything.
I agree.
But for me, it's a lot about like, okay, how is my roster, my rotation constructed? If I've got a lot of, or I've got a few high upside, low floor guys, then maybe Stroman fits into that a little bit better. If I've been pretty safe with my rotation, maybe I want one of those high upside, low floor guys, because you can usually find a Marcus Stroman on the waiver wire, even in a 15.
Yeah, but if I'm getting like some Sanchez's and some Detmers is on my team, I think Stroman could counterbalance them nicely too. So that's a good call out. So Marcus Stroman in New York should kind of be same old, same old. Like you said, maybe the win potential does go up if the Yankees pan out the way they're supposed to. All right, back into first base here. Coming down the stretch, we're at 337 on the ADP. So you can tell that we're in late territory here. But let's talk about some upside gambles. And I can't remember. The first guy here that we have is Kyle Manzardo. Somebody was mentioned related to Cleveland that could harm him. Who was that?
Like that's on Cleveland?
Oh, yeah. I think it might be their Rule 5 pick, Davidson De Los Santos. Was it him? I think Jeff. Oh, wait, maybe it was in Mining the News. Hang on. I'm sorry here. But anyway, Manzardo. So we're in the upside gambles. I'll list the names and we'll get back into Manzardo.
I think at best, De Los Santos is like a short side platoon guy.
I'll find out who it was.
Yeah.
But it's Manzardo, Kirilloff, Luke Raley, my favorite player ever, Elehuris Montero, Nolan Schanuel, and Ryan Noda that are in this group. Let me look here. Oh, yeah, it was Davidson De Los Santos. With the addition of Davidson De Los Santos, there's a chance Manzardo will start the season in the minors. Basically just saying they don't have room for both of them. So if you had a lot of Manzardo excitement, I think Davidson De Los Santos might cut it. I think they might see him a bit better than you do, the Rule 5 pick.
Right. I mean, that's possible. I mean, it depends really whether or not they're willing to sacrifice maybe a better player for a guy that they have to keep on the 26 man roster. I don't tend to think that teams that think they're competitive, as Cleveland thinks they're competitive.
Do they?
I would think they do, right? it's a poachable division. They, like
they certainly don't ever play like they think they're competitive, man. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, here's the thing. I kind of like De Los Santos. He's an interesting power bat who could just rip 25 homers, with batting average that is around my weight. If he was just turned loose with some upside, obviously, if he could figure some things out. And to that end, I'm not sure that they should have drafted him. I understand the idea of like just getting talent, but when you have Manzardo and Josh Naylor, why was that the position you picked?
yeah.
Why did you do that? It's stupid, I think. I don't know. I mean, he's 20, or he'll be 21 this year. He hasn't reached
I know there's
AAA.
been talk about them potentially trading Naylor. So, I mean,
Okay,
maybe...
if they're thinking that, and then they got De Los Santos and Manzardo, sure.
Because what do they love more than anything?
Guys
who don't cost anything.
Yeah, so that they can have cheap players. Okay, well, we'll figure that out. Let's talk Manzardo. We saw him at the AFL. They got him from Tampa Bay for Aaron Savali. I thought that was a nice win-win deal. He had a pretty solid year at AAA. Like I said, we saw him at the Arizona Fall League. He was raking. He was hitting in the home run derby. I think Manzardo can be a pretty nice player next year. It just depends on his outlook. He just might only get like 5 months or 4.5 months if he takes some time to come up. I can't imagine he spends much time in AAA though. Like, he doesn't need to be twiddling his thumbs down there. So we don't take a lot of gambles, you and I, of prospects that haven't reached the majors at all in our DCs. But we were talking about it with Rob, where we have like kind of a few allocated spots. I'm not averse to taking Manzardo in a DC. What about you?
I am. Especially if there is some risk that he's not going to be up for the first month or so of the season. I just don't think there's enough pop in this bat to make a huge difference at first base. And
he was in the home run derby, though. Did you hear me say that?
Yeah, so was Edward Julian.
I was hoping that you'd follow my lead there of bringing that up, because not that being in a home run derby means anything anyway. But
I don't think Manzardo is going to be a bad player, but I do wonder if he's going to be a better real life player than he is going to be a fantasy player. He's a guy with a really good hit tool.
Yeah, so don't you think he could hit for a bunch of average?
Yeah, but
to combat not having like 30 homers,
which I think is fine in fantasy. But I think when people see, oh, this guy's a top 10 to 15 prospect in baseball and he plays first base, I'm going to get a bunch of power with that. And I just don't know that he's ever going to be a big power guy. I think he's going to be a big time average and on base guy, which is fine. But in order for that to be as impactful as you want it to be on your team, he has to play a bunch. And even, as long as they have De Los Santos on the roster, even if, at some point Manzardo does come up, he'll be in a platoon situation more than likely, which again limits his plate appearance potential, which means that batting average is capped, or that batting average effect on your team is capped. And we haven't even mentioned the fact batting average is the most fluky, hard to predict stat in fantasy baseball. So like
true.
I'm, I don't think there is enough juice, at least right now, to warrant taking him in a redraft league.
No Cal Manzardo for you.
Doesn't take my view on him in Dynasty. Doesn't mean I don't think he's going to be a good player at some point. For this year, I just don't think it's worth the squeeze. There's too many other guys in this tier, other tiers, that have interesting upside that I'd rather take the gamble on.
Cool. You might have talked me out of him. I didn't really have him anywhere anyway. I just was saying he's on my board. But yeah, maybe Manzardo isn't the fit. I do like De Los Santos, and he is a Rule 5 guy so he's stuck there, and like maybe they give him a chance to just get 25 bombs by playing a bunch, and they keep Manzardo parked a little bit and say, hey, you got to get some more power if you want to be our first baseman. We'll see how that goes. What about Alex Kirilloff? He's got paper wrists. I don't know what that means. I just know that paper's frail, and so are his wrists. So that's the joke I like to make. He got paper wrists, but he's first base outfield eligible. He'll tease you, right? Like every time Kirilloff is healthy for the 2 or 3 weeks that he's healthy, where we get excited because he looks good, but then he invariably gets hurt, and it ends up being, more disappointment in the end. But he had 11 homers and had a 120 WRC plus last year in 319 plate appearances. Alex Kirilloff is still just 26. Are you going back to that well at all, Justin?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the well of I don't care about Alex Kirilloff.
Okay, that's the well that you're at.
Yeah, that has been the well that I have talked about with Alex Kirilloff since pretty much he's been a prospect and been close to the majors. Like I don't really care about Alex
I,
Kirilloff.
I think you're kind of racist.
I am a little racist. I'm not
I
gonna
knew
lie.
it. I knew
Yeah,
it. I
there
can't believe you're
is
saying it
there's
publicly.
definitely some of that in my profile that I'm a little racist.
Wow.
I projected him for 425 plate appearances, 15 home runs,
Lofty.
261 batting average, and 1 stolen base. Like, if that is something you are interested in fantasy, I think that is
What'd you put an average for Kirilloff?
261.
Okay. I think you can definitely beat that, but
I
the
think he
risk of like
definitely can, but I
on
think there's
off,
also
yeah, it's a projection. You're not
yeah.
you're not saying that's his upside. That's his baseline. Yeah, I totally get it. I don't want this headache either. He's kind of a guy I root for in the background of like, hey, I hope Kirilloff figures it out because he's kind of a fun player and I liked him as a prospect, but I don't think I want to deal with the hassle either. And so I think I co-signed not really going for him. 341 is not an egregious price point. It's actually down to 355. Again, I wrote these a long time ago, and now we're looking at a different time frame. So he's even cheaper these days. Kirilloff is. I don't think it's a bad price if somebody's interested. It just seems like you and I aren't interested even at that price point.
Yeah, no.
Okay, we already talked about how Luke Raley is an amazing player. He has been traded since then, but we even talked about the trade, of course. So, yeah, we're fine with him. You can go listen to the trade episode where he got traded for more details there. I don't mind him at his price point, by the way, of 360 something. Elehuris Montero out in Colorado. 380 ADP, first third base type, right-hander, so has some short side platoon risk. Is there any chance that he could find himself in the everyday lineup? Right now they got Chris Bryant penciled in at first, so if he's healthy, obviously Chris Bryant's going to play every day, and it looks like it's going to be first base. And then Ryan McMahon over at third, which does make life difficult for Montero.
Yeah.
I imagine that that's going to be a big point of what you're going to say about why he's not going to play. But what do you think of Elehuris Montero? Had 11 homers, but only a 76 WRC plus, playing half his games in Colorado last year. Any interest here?
Not really. I guess the path to playing time needs an injury. Now,
What if he got it?
I mean, if he got it, like he could be interesting. The problem is like the plate skills not very good.
Horrendous, dude.
Yeah. We're talking about a 36% strikeout rate, a 5% walk rate.
My God.
Zone contact is 81.5%, which is a fair amount below league average. A 19.7% swinging strike rate in the major leagues makes you wonder if that strikeout rate might actually go up as opposed to
legitimately 40 potential.
He swings outside of the zone 45% of the time. That is atrociously bad.
Can't do that.
He reminds me of he's a Patrick Wisdom type. Maybe a short side platoon, a guy like, hey, there's two men on and you need a home run because you're down by 3 in the 8th inning.
He'll get it for you every once in a
while. Lefty's up, yeah. But that's all he is. I mean, he is a younger version of Patrick Wisdom that plays in
Colorado.
In Colorado. So, like, if you're drafting Patrick Wisdom in your league, maybe you look at Montero instead, but you could probably get Patrick Wisdom like 100 picks cheaper. So
let me see where P. Wizzy's going. Oh, wait, he's not a first baseman. Hang on. But yeah, Montero, those plate skills, those are freaking brutal. Oh yeah, 580 for P. Wizzy.
Yeah, so
literally 200 picks later.
Again, other guys going around that either have full-time playing time or more likely to reach the upside than a guy like Elehuris Montero. So.
Yeah, and even though our boy Michael Bush doesn't qualify at first right now, he eventually will, and we'd rather just take him around this price point over somebody like Montero. What about Nolan Schanuel? I think he's kind of interesting for the Angels. Pick 415. Interesting in that if they do commit to him leading off because of his excellent on-base skill, he might be like a sneaky little profile that can hit like, I don't know, 260, 265, maybe even higher than that. He hit 275 in his MLB sample. So let's say 270 and scored just a ton of runs. The problem is, Justin, is he doesn't offer any other fantasy heat. So you need the runs and batting average to come through. And while those are two difficult categories to get late, they're also very volatile and reliant upon some good luck with your batted balls for batting average, and of course your teammates as far as scoring runs. So what do you think of Nolan Schanuel? He was a surprise call-up this year. The Angels, they only draft for immediate need, which is hard to do in MLB, but I do give them credit. They keep identifying.
I wonder if that changes now that Ohtani's gone. Like,
I don't know. I mean, they still got Trout, right? Like, there's still urgency there, but maybe it doesn't. But I will say this, for all the clowning that we do on them, and it's all richly deserved, they have at least identified the right guys that are worthy of bringing up early. Like, these guys have not failed. Detmer's, like, he's a capable major league starter. Neto, outside of getting hurt, looked good. And Schanuel came up and dropped a 15% walk rate with a 14% K rate and hit the ground running very nicely with a 402 OBP. But is there any fantasy heat here?
If he's going to lead off, I think there could be. Now, again, this is a very Manzardo-ish profile, that Schanuel has, right? Like, you look at kind of what the prospect reports say, and they look very similar. Manzardo's a little bit better than Schanuel's, in terms of maybe the power and even the
Schanuel's playing time looks a lot better because he's been in the majors and he put some stuff on tape.
And like there isn't anybody there to compete with him in Los Angeles unless they sign someone. Right? Like if they sign a first baseman,
dumbass signing.
It's the Angels. So
no, I know. I'm just saying, like, the last thing they need is some random first baseman. It would be a dumbass signing. So they'll do it. They'll definitely
exactly. No, I kind of like Schanuel. Like, I mean, especially in draft champions. Maybe not so much in like a regular fab league, but in a draft champions, we talked about it yesterday on the pod with Rob, like what you need to win those leagues is volume. And Schanuel's going to get volume. He legitimately could be a guy who gets 700 plate appearances. And if he can do that with a good average and score a bunch of runs, maybe that offsets the lack of power. Because I don't think, I can actually tell you what I've projected.
Yeah, I would be surprised if you had him pegged for more than like 9 to 11 homers.
I have him for 15.
15 is that okay? If he got 15, I think that might be a little hot. Although I see Steamer has 12 in 447 plate appearances.
Yeah, and they've got him for almost 100 less plate appearances. Or no, more than 100 less plate appearances than I did. So I have him for 620. Wait, no, that's not him. I would take 579 plate appearances.
I'd take 15 all day.
15 home runs, 63 runs, 58 RBIs, and a 279 batting average.
I'd take that
almost
guy all day.
400 on base percentage.
That's the kicker.
So, I like him more obviously in an OBP league, but yeah, I don't mind him. Now, you guys who play in 10 and 12 team mix, ignore him, right? Like we're getting to the point where if you're playing
this whole tier,
this whole episode is not for shallow team.
Well, Imanaga and Stroman are, but
I mean in terms
every hitter that we're talking about here is not up their alley.
But Schanuel, I think, is a potential accumulator at first base, and especially those of you playing in draft champions, I think that's perfect as a guy you put on your bench.
Agreed.
You hope that he just plays every single day.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with Schanuel. If he can get the double digit power, my concern was that he might be a single digit homer guy, but if he can get the double digits, I'll take that. I really will, because I think he could spike like 85, 90 runs if he bats near the top of the order.
My biggest issue with Schanuel is the fact that I can't seem to remember how to pronounce his name ever.
Well, because it looks like Schanuel.
Yeah.
Or Schanuel.
I'm glad that you're the host and that you have to introduce him, because that
I really try to get these names right for you.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate it.
Set you up so that when you go out onto other pods, you can pass along the proper pronunciations. And Schanuel, because I was thinking like Schanuel or something like that, but then I heard it on the broadcast. I was like, oh, Schanuel, got it. But anyway, interesting player. A little bit of a unique profile for first base in that there's not a ton of power, but it could be like crazy OBP with a ton of runs and a solid batting average. What about Ryan Noda? He was a Rule 5 pick last year for Oakland. He stuck and put up a hell of a season with a 123 WRC plus, 16 homers, and 495 plate appearances. He did strike out 34% of the time, but when you counterbalance it with a 16% walk rate, it doesn't bother me as much, right? Like, it's still a lot of swing and miss, and that's why he hit 229, but I can live with that when you get a 364 OBP. He's from the Dodgers. Because their runoff talent can supply the rest of the league. Michael Busch is part of that as well. But do we think Noda can build on his rookie season? He'll be 28, so he's an established guy here. Do we think he could be a stud?
So this is a really interesting profile, not because he's a guy who strikes out and has power, because that's somewhat common in Major League Baseball, but it's the underlying skills. Right, so clearly he has a 15% swing strike rate, not to be unexpected, right, from a guy who strikes out as much as him. 76% zone contact is atrocious, especially when around league average is 84, 85% year to year. What would you suspect his O swing is?
I can't tell if you're setting me up that it's like not that high.
And I will get you the league average for context.
Okay.
For O swing, so that way you're not kind of completely flying by. The league average O swing is 32% in 2023.
Okay, so we're talking about Ryan Noda with his 34% K rate.
And I'll tell you, league average swinging strike rate was 11%. His was 15. League average zone contact was 85%. His was 76.
So it's chase rate. I'm going to feel like I might be too high, but I'm going to go high because I can't tell which way you're trying to trick me or if it's not a trick at all. So I'm just going to say 27%. What was league average again?
League average was 31%.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay, I think he's going to be a little bit below league average, 27%.
He was 22%.
Holy crap.
So all of those strikeouts were not, or the majority of those strikeouts were not him swinging outside the zone.
They're probably about getting into deep counts, so there's probably like some taking third strikes. Like,
you almost wonder if he became more aggressive.
Bingo.
That he might have some more success. I also don't know that he has prodigious power. I think he's got like good power. Like, I don't think it's like the type of 35 homer power. I don't know, maybe might be actually.
Oh yeah, no, I think he's got big time pop. Yeah. I think Ryan Noda could club. Now he's got the park to contend with a bit, but I think he can drop 30.
Yeah, I think he probably could too. My projection for him had him with 17 home runs, a 217 batting average, in 500 plate appearances. I think one of the problems is Soderstrom. Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, because he can't catch.
Yeah, he can't catch, and I think they do want Langoliers to get some DH time. So I think while there is some upside here, especially if Noda just gets a little more comfortable with major league pitching, becomes maybe a little bit more aggressive inside of the zone and stops striking out so much, or not stop striking out, but makes more contact within the zone. I think there's also the potential that Ryan Noda is in the minor leagues, right? They couldn't send him down last year because he was a Rule 5 pick. Now they can.
True.
And so like guys like Noda, guys like Blake Sable, who spent the year on, bad-ish teams.
They can't send down a 364 OBP, though. That's like one of their best players.
I mean, they can.
Of course they can. They can do whatever dumb shit they want.
It's Oakland. They don't want talent on that team. They want to continue to just be bad.
I like Noda. Now, I feel like he could hit like 24 homers, but it's going to come with like 30 ribbies. So
that's true.
The tough part.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him the 17 home runs, and I gave him 58 RBIs. So Like
he had 54 this past year, so
yeah.
it won't be a lot there. But I like Noda. I think he's kind of sneaky. I think I would definitely take him into DC. And I think he could be the Rooker of next year. We saw what Brent Rooker was able to do this past year. If Noda ended up filling that role and he was the 30 homer, 69 ribby guy, I wouldn't be that surprised. So at 417, I can definitely take Ryan Noda. Let's talk about some deep league corners here. Jake Cronenworth, LaMonte Wade Jr., DJ LeMahieu, Ryan O'Hearn, and Carlos Santana. Do you take Cronenworth at all anymore? Has he just evaporated?
I mean, in a DC, I guess I don't mind it so much, only because I think he's still dual eligible.
I was just about to ask. That was the first thing I was going to ask. Yeah, okay, still has first, second, so that does help Cronenworth a lot.
And because of the contract, he is going to play. Like you got to be there every day, first baseman, and he's going to play every day. And so again, in a draft champions, you need those kind of accumulators.
True,
but the skills suck. Like the skills are not good.
It was rough, dude.
Those contracts they gave out, like, just were head scratchingly bad.
I still think the worst one was the Darvish one.
It is because he's going to be 80 by the time he retires.
Exactly.
Though I did hear
Bogart's one too.
The Bogart one, yeah, it's going to be bad
because they didn't need him. Like I like Bogarts. I think he can age fine, but they just didn't need to do that.
Yeah. I did hear like part of the rationale that went into the Darvish signing was that he was going to help recruit Japanese players.
How'd that work out this offseason?
But that when the TV deal that they had fell through, they could no longer afford those guys.
In fairness to them, that's been a big issue. Is the TV like just being pulled out from under them?
Losing $60 million a year is, that definitely hurts. And they've got massive contracts on the books, right? In Tatis and Bogarts and now Darvish and Cronenworth and stuff. So I get it. That being said, like as far as Cronenworth goes, like we're talking draft champions, and that's it.
And only because of the second base eligibility and the fact that he should get another 550 plate appearances if he's healthy. Possibly 600 something. And look, can't rule out a rebound to being back to an above average bat with like 15 homers, but keep your expectations in check with Croney. He'll be age 30. LaMonte Wade Jr. is a great platoon hitter. He has health issues that also cut into his playing time. So I think he goes late because to build in the fact that like the max you can expect is probably about 500 plate appearances. Like his 519 this year was his highest, and I think that's probably max.
Yeah.
But he had 17 homers and a 119 OPS plus. That's your boy out there, late night Lamont. What do you think of LaMonte Wade Jr.? Is he somebody you like as a strong side platoon?
I don't love when guys have the upside of a platoon player.
Yeah.
Like that.
He is dual eligible at least first outfield.
Just fine. Like I'm never going to draft him.
Okay. That's fair. I probably would in a DC. You start to get
I think I'd rather
there in the 400s.
I think I'd rather have other guys going after him that have the upside to be a full-time player at least.
Who like Noda I would take.
Yeah, I'll take LeMahieu.
Schanuel.
We're about to talk about.
You take LeMahieu?
Yeah, absolutely.
For what?
He's gonna play.
He's gonna play DL. Got him. They didn't call it the DL anymore. Fucking roasted him, dude. Went old school with it and just cooked him. Look,
I'd rather have Matt Mervis, to be quite honest.
Shut up.
Because if Matt Mervis does get playing time, I think he could be good at
we can't gas up
Michael
Bush
up.
No. We can't gas up Michael Bush like we just did and then pretend that Matt Mervis has
Mervis, Michael Bush season, baby.
No, the hell it's not. They're both lefties anyway.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so you like LeMahieu over LaMonte Wade.
I do, yeah.
You don't think LeMahieu's cooked?
No, I don't think he's necessarily cooked. I mean, is he ever going to be the player that he was? No.
He's 35. He hit 243 last year.
Yeah, no, I get that, but he also is a guy who, he's had 3 straight seasons where he's had, 540 plate appearances or more. He's going to hit 15 home runs, steal a couple bags. He's going to play. He's multi-positional eligible, first and third. He could gain second base back at some point. He's not a guy that I want to build my team around necessarily, but we're talking about a multi-positional player and draft champions that's going to play every day, right? Or pretty close to every day. He's not special, but I want him over a guy who's going to play halftime.
Yeah. I'll take the guy who's going to dominate halftime, I think. I don't know. I think LaMonte Wade could easily out-homer LeMahieu hitting part-time.
He probably could.
He has 18 and 17.
But there's also the risk that LeMahieu has 170 plate appearances because on top of being part-time, he gets hurt a lot.
You mean Wade?
Yeah.
You said LeMahieu because we got LaMonte and LeMahieu, so it's a little confusing. But wait, LeMahieu does have 170 plate appearance downside as well because he gets hurt again. He'll be 35 years old.
In each of the last 3 years.
And he sucked last year.
Yeah, I know.
He was hurt. He played 136 games, and he was injured through most of those and missed time. He played 125 games the year before. It's just that he was still able to put up 500-plus plate appearances. I get it from the volume standpoint. The plate skills are still pretty good.
With multi-positional eligibilities, it helps you cover multiple spots when guys go down. You're not drafting any of these guys that we're talking about for your starting lineup. You're drafting them to be a backup, and hey, now LeMahieu can cover 2 spots and maybe even a 3rd spot at some point in the season. Whereas
plenty of positional eligibility.
All right, that's fine.
LaMonte Wade can cover 2 spots too. Thank you very much. First and outfield. Hello.
This is true, but he can't cover it if he's not playing.
True. All right, DJ LeMahieu, Justin's favorite player. Ryan O'Hearn had a nice little spike in Baltimore last year. I remember being in on him 20 years ago with KC. He had
loved Ryan.
Oh boy, did I like him!
He was your boy.
So embarrassed the comparison that I made now that the trajectory of the other guy's career. He went off in 2018. It was a small sample, which I never made anything more about it than it was a small sample, but it was very good. And it reminded me of another guy whose last name starts with an O as a first baseman. It reminded me of Matt Olson's 2017 small sample. It wasn't quite as good. It was we're talking like baby Matt Olson, but he wasn't even baby Matt. Ryan O'Hearn was baby Matt Olson. He played as well as Matt Olson would have played as a baby. For several years after that 2018 debut, he was nothing. And then last year, out of nowhere, he finds 368 plate appearances, rips 14 homers, puts together a 289, 322, 480 line. Does that give you any confidence in Ryan O'Hearn?
I'd rather have Ryan O'Hearn than LaMonte Wade.
Okay.
Because I think if they both get 425 plate appearances, that O'Hearn's will be better.
Okay. I can get behind that.
But again, I just don't draft these kind of guys, right? Because
O'Hearn has outfield eligibility too, by the way.
He does. On top of the fact that O'Hearn is at
best. Wait. Who the fuck do you draft then? You don't draft this guy. You don't draft this guy. You don't draft this guy. What do you draft? Nobody? Placeholders?
Like I said, I'd rather have Schanuel, who's going to the same spot.
Okay. You can't go Schanuel and LeMahieu though, right? Isn't it an either or with them since they have?
It's going to be Schanuel 9 out of 10 times.
Okay.
The 10th time being the time that someone snipes me on Schanuel.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, probably.
Let's get in a league together.
Because I know Schanuel's going to play. I
feel pretty good about him.
Schanuel and O'Hearn probably finish both with 15 home runs. But the amount of other stats to go around with Schanuel plus the batting average, and the fact that I'm not going to have to hey, this weekend there's 4 games, but there's 2 lefties. I'm not going to have to do the mental math with a guy like Schanuel.
Like you would with O'Hearn.
Well, I will with O'Hearn and with Wade. So
prospect. If we have any prospect folks listening, like a Matt Thompson or whomever, Shelley, hit us up on Schanuel. I thought it was single-digit power. I thought everyone was on him to be like a single-digit homer guy. I can't analyze swings. Like I don't know how to look at a swing and say, oh, there's no power there. But I thought people were saying like he's going to be very light power. And I'm not saying that like to undercut you wanting to draft him. I think I'd still take Schanuel as like an 8 homer guy because I agree with you that he's going to get 550 plate appearances with a 400 plus OBP. But I'm curious if anybody that's a prospect person is listening that can correct me if I'm wrong on this Schanuel power, because I thought it was supposed to be really bad. Carlos Santana, still kicking, still doing things. Does he have a team right now?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we don't know where he's going to play, but I do think it's worth pointing out that he ripped 23 homers, played 619 plate appearances. You want to talk about volume?
Yeah,
even at age 37,
they're all like, like this is my argument. We'll talk about Rowdy Tellez here in a minute. Like, this is my argument for Rowdy Tellez. Like, people are like, well, Tellez is gonna platoon in Pittsburgh. I'm like, is he?
Are you sure?
Mean, Carlos Santana just got 600 plate appearances, most of which were in Pittsburgh before he was traded. I mean, the dude is ageless.
I love Carlos Santana, man.
I remember when he was when I first started playing fantasy baseball, he was a prospect, and I was excited about him as a catcher. But like, he just never falls off. Like, he's gonna land somewhere. It's gonna start off as a short side platoon,
and then as
all
everyone else falls behind by the wayside, he stands.
Home runs this year because he gets to 500 plate appearances.
So do you take Carlos Santana then? Is he in your list of guys because he plays?
Sure. Yeah, I think he is. He has had at least 500 plate appearances in every single season that he has played. Obviously not including 2020, where he only played 60 of the 60 games.
Oh, what a loser, dude.
And his rookie season, in which he only played in 46 games. But he's had 500 plate appearances. Only one of those seasons that I was just referencing has he had less than 600 plate appearances.
That's so impressive.
Like,
dude,
and he's
just
forever.
plays.
He just plays. And I'm sure there will be a team, Washington, maybe.
Haven't we been putting a lot of guys on Washington?
We've got to put someone on there.
True.
So
they'll get somebody.
Like, he'll find a home, and he will play probably every day, and he'll hit 19 home runs. And we'll be sitting there going, oh, I don't know how 38-year-old Carlos Santana hit 19 home runs, but he just does every year.
He's a post 400 pick. Honestly, this is a perfect underscoring of the type of guy that you need to consider more in DCs, that a lot of people are like, huh? Carlos Santana, who cares? I'm taking flashy prospect McGee. And it's like, I understand why you would think that, but the guy who's like damn near a guarantee for 500 plate appearances, even at age 38, is probably the better pick here. So I think I would definitely take Santana in at least one DC, just to see if the train keeps rolling. Because if this is the year at age 38 where he does finally get derailed and only plays like 300 plate appearances, it won't kill me either, right? But he's been a mainstay the last several years in DCs for us, as somebody to take with a late pick.
Batting average be damned, right? He's put up 200.
Yeah, Carlos Santana does not hit great batting average.
But he, in his entire career, obviously not including that rookie season, not including 2020, but the rest of his career, he has never had less than 18 home runs, 50 runs scored, or 60 RBIs in a season. At this point in the draft, like you just can't find that. Like, he is not, like, and maybe this is the year he does. There's no cost attached. Like, it's
exactly. So it won't kill you if it does happen, but you gotta love the insane upside that somebody like Carlos Santana brings. So I'm definitely open to taking him here as a deep league corner at past pick 400. All right, then anybody else? We got Craig Biggio, Matt Mervis, CJ Cron, Rowdy Tellez, Jake Bauers, and Gabriel Arias.
Let's just trade Matt Mervis. Just trade him. Like, I'm not drafting him unless they trade him. So like I said, Rowdy Tellez could find 600 plate appearances just because. I don't think he will. I do think he's gonna platoon.
I'd still gladly take him though.
Yeah, but like there is a world in which Rowdy Tellez, because it's Pittsburgh, gets 600 plate appearances. Jake Bauers weirdly could get plate appearances in Milwaukee.
Can't quit him.
I've never been a Bauers guy, but like he
always
has
been a Bauers guy.
Yeah, he has his role. I think that's it. Like Biggio is probably going to play fairly regularly, but I don't really care.
Still has a lot of qualification.
I think CJ Cron is going to rip up the KBO.
Wait, okay, let me go back to Biggio.
Yeah.
If you think he's going to play and he has eligibilities, why wouldn't you be interested?
It's fine. I mean, in where he's going in a DC, like it actually is fine because, like I said, he is multi-positional eligible, and he's probably, I mean, at least right now, as far as the Blue Jays are constructed, they clearly could, and probably still will add more pieces at some point. But as they're currently constructed, he's at least a strong side platoon guy, right? Like, I think he's gonna, and I think there's honestly a pretty good chance he plays every day. I mean, are they really going to play David Schneider regularly at second base? Like that, he's not good. So now I think they should bring in a second baseman or a third baseman, and I think they could. Maybe they bring Matt Chapman back. But at this point, the way things are currently constructed, I think Biggio is going to get 500 plate appearances.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and I would take Biggio over David Schneider for sure.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Tellez, you mentioned Bauers. I got a little love for Gabriel Arias in Cleveland because he can play everywhere. Like he's a legit middle infielder. And I mean, he hit 10 homers last year and 345 plate appearances. It came with a 74 WRC plus, so let me be clear on that. But I think he's better than that. I think he's just kind of getting his feet wet. He'll be 24 years old. I think he's an interesting utility guy for Cleveland, and I'm keeping Gabriel Arias on my radar right now.
Yeah. The hard part with a guy like Arias, I mean, he does have some pop in that bat. Hit 10 home runs and 345 plate appearances. The problem is he's just really bad at hitting the baseball.
Oh,
which
do you have to do that in this game?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
My wife last night was sitting at dinner. We were sitting at dinner, and she asked me. She goes, "So what do you think about Casey Schmidt this year?" And I was all like, "He's got a flaw in his game that that's really hard to overlook because he's not good at baseball."
That's really the only thing holding them back.
Yeah, and typically to be good at baseball, you have to be good at baseball.
Right.
She was not thrilled. So
no, she wanted you to give her some positive outlook there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think Arias may, play some in Cleveland, but 33% strikeout rate. He hit 210, he hit 275 on base percentage. Like, I know he's a good fielder. I know there's pop in the bat, and so he could just accumulate. But I don't know. I think there's a really good chance that like he played 122 games last year, and that totaled to 345 plate appearances.
Arias? Well, because he came in as like a defensive replacement.
I think that's going to be his role a lot of the time.
He's first and short eligible. Post pick 500. I'm taking Arias in a DC.
I don't mind. Like at this point, like I'm not going to beat up anybody for.
Honestly, it's the shortstop eligibility that would make him have some appeal for me that late. Yeah. But all right, we have exhausted first base here. If there's anybody we didn't talk about that somebody wants us to mention, put him in a comment or on a tweet, and if I think he matters at all, I'll bring him up.
I mean, I will just real quick gonna throw just a dart. Joey Votto is going at pick 717, and reportedly has multiple teams interested in him.
Have you taken him anywhere?
Care Bears. I have not taken him, but I would.
I'm sorry, who are the Care Bears?
Oh, Joey. So someone tweeted out, I can't remember if it was Rosenthal or Passan that, or maybe Nightingale, that that 3 teams were interested in Joey Votto. And Joey Votto quote tweeted it and said 4 teams, and then he had a gif of the Care Bears. They're looking for a grumpy bear.
Look, if he gets on the Care Bears, I think I'm taking Votto at pick 500.
The magic
that's what I'm saying, man. Yeah. You get that magic tummy, watch out.
So yeah, for me, like Joey Votto is one of those guys like at the very end of my draft where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, throw a dart right there and see. Because I mean, I know he's not ever going to be the player that he was, but
as your literal last pick,
yeah, I don't know that he's cooked. And if he does sign somewhere, like I think he's signing to play every day. Like I don't think he's signing to like be on the bench for some team.
I think even if he is a strong side platoon, I would have some love for Votto. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll put Votto on here so that he shows up on the file there for under his profile. This episode will show up. All right, we will end it there. Let's go back to 3 episodes next week. I had to get all those rankings out this week, so I was just crazy busy. They're done. They're up. Jeff's top 200 will go up today. Then those are going to be living, breathing documents, so you will see updates as things happen. You have second base, right? So I don't think anything's really changed much since...
I don't believe so, unless Michael Bush has... I don't think Michael Bush...
No, I think he's only first eligible.
Only third eligible. So,
or, I mean, third with his... and then he'll get first in season. So, okay. I will talk to you next week. Go Lions, and have a good weekend.
Take it easy.